Alright class, today we're going to do Unit 8, Section 6, the second part of it, and we're going back to solving, factoring to solve quadratic equations. Okay, so what we've done before is we solved the quadratic equation where your leading coefficient was not equal to 0. Okay, what we did before is it was always 1. So today we're going to deal with some that have a different leading coefficient that is not 1. Alright, so let's look at this example here. We need to do the steps we talked about. So we need to set it equal to 0. Alright, well this one's already set to 0. We need to factor it out. So, do we have any common factors? We do not. So we need to do our little t-chart here. When we multiply, we get negative 176. When we add, we get negative 5. Okay? So I know if I take 11 times a negative 16, I get negative 176. 11 plus a negative 16 will give me my negative 5. Alright, so let's put our leading coefficient. Alright, we can simplify this binomial by dividing by 2. And then our last step here is to use our 0 property. Okay, so we're going to put 2x plus 11 equal to 0. And x minus 8 equal to 0 and solve for x. Okay, so my solution is a negative 11 halves and 8. The only thing different we're doing today is our leading coefficient is not going to be 1. It's going to be a different number, okay? All right. So, number 1 here, already set to 0, so we need to factor out. Do we have any greatest common factors we can pull out? No. So let's do our t-chart. When you multiply, you get 6, but when you add, you get 5. So that's going to be 2 times 3 and 2 plus 3. So we have 2x plus 2, 2x plus 3. We can simplify this binomial by dividing each term by 2. Okay. Now let's set each binomial equal to 0 by using our 0 property. And then let's solve for x. So minus 1, minus 3, divided by 2. So our solution for number 1 is negative 1 and negative 3 halves. Okay, let's look at number 2. Already set to 0, so we need to factor out. Do we have any greatest common factors? No. So let's do our t-chart. When we multiply, we get negative 20. When we add, we get negative 1. Okay? So negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. Negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. So let's use these factors. 2x minus 5, 2x plus 4. Okay, so we can simplify this binomial by dividing each term by 2. So we have 2x minus 5 for the first binomial. 2x divided by 2 is 1x. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now we set each binomial to 0 by using our 0 property. And now we solve each equation. So for 2, our solution is 5/2 negative 2. All right, on 3, what's different is we don't have it set equal to 0. So let's subtract 8 from both sides. And now we're ready to go. Do we have any common factors to pull out of these 3 terms? No. So let's do our T-chart. When we multiply, we get negative 24, but when we add, we get a positive 2. So if we take negative 4 times 6, we get negative 24. Negative 4 plus 6 will give us a positive 2. All right, so bring down your leading coefficient, minus 4, leading coefficient plus 6. Set that equal to 0. Can we simplify this binomial? No. We can this one by dividing by 3. Three divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now we're going to use our 0 property and solve for x. My solution for number 3 is 4/3 and negative 2. Okay. On number 4 here, guys, there's many ways you can do this. Some people are going to want to subtract the 3x squared and put it over here. Easiest one step to get that 0. But when you do that, your leading coefficient is going to be negative, and we're going to have to deal with opposites. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these terms to the left side. So I'm going to subtract 5x. And then I'm going to add 2. Now, if you subtract this out, what you're going to have is this. And our leading coefficient is negative, we're going to have to deal with opposites. So if you want to go that route, you can, but I think this route here is going to give you less of a chance of making an error. Okay, so we have it set to 0. We need to factor this out. So when you multiply, you get 6. When you add, you get negative 5. Okay, so that's going to be negative 2 times negative 3 will give me positive 6. Negative 2 plus negative 3 will give me negative 5. Bring down your leading coefficient. Minus 2. Minus 3. All right, so we can simplify this one. I'm going to move it over here. So now bring down your first binomial. Our second binomial, 3 divided by 3 is 1, so we have x. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Set each binomial equal to 0 by using our 0 property. And then solve for x. Add 2, divide by 3, add 1. Okay, so be careful how you set up your first equation in that quadratic equation form, set it equal to 0, because I wouldn't want to have to pull out the negative and use an opposite on this one. Okay, let's see y'all do 5 on your own, and if you get stuck, you can look up here. Actually, what I'm going to do to save on time so I don't have to do a second video is I'm just going to write the answer for 5. And if you do not come up with this answer, see me in class tomorrow. All right, so let's skip that for a minute. I do want you to come back to it, and let's look at this applied problem here. Okay, the height of a diver above the water during a dive can be modeled by this equation, where h is the height and t is the time in seconds. Find the time it takes the diver to hit the water. So we're trying to find out what t is. So we have this equation. And what we can do is we can set it equal to 0. And we can factor this out. Okay, so it looks like we're going to have to deal with an opposite anyways because our leading coefficient is negative. So let's go ahead and pull out that -1. And when we do that, every term goes to its opposite. Okay? Now, do we have any common factors between these three terms? Looks like we have an 8, don't we? 16 divided by 8, 8 divided by 8, 48 divided by 8. So let's pull out that common factor. So 16 divided by 8. All right, so let's factor this. When we multiply, we get -12, but when we add, we get a +1. Okay, so if we have -3 times a +4, -12, -3 plus 4, +1. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply my -1 and 8. Bring down my leading coefficient, -3. Leading coefficient plus 4. And all this is equal to 0. Okay, can we simplify this binomial? No. Can we simplify this one? Yes. So we have -8, 2t minus 3, t plus 2, all equal to 0. All right, so we want to isolate these two binomials. To get rid of the -8, we can divide. Use the inverse of multiplication. Divide both sides by -8. So we have 2t minus 3, t plus 2, equal to 0. Now we're going to use our 0 property. Solve each equation. So this one here is going to be a positive. Add 3 divided by 2. So t equals a +3/2. This one is going to be -2. A -2. Okay, so this is an applied problem, so let's go back and see what it's asking for. Find the time it takes the diver to hit the water. Okay, so time cannot be negative. It's not going to go backwards. So this one here does not make sense. So our answer is going to be 3/2 seconds. All right, guys, have a good one.